Hi, my name's John and welcome to my Metro 6R4 build. Built a few cars in the past and a couple of people had asked me if I had a YouTube channel, so I thought I'd give it a go. I watch enough of it, so I may as well try and make a video.
So I don't really know what to say about this Metro other than it's completely the wrong type of Metro. There's the wrong headlights in it. In fact, it's actually wrong from about here forward, although that's not going to matter to me. It's got the wrong taillights in it, but what it does or doesn't have is a sunroof, and that's actually quite hard to find in a Metro, believe it or not. So that's basically the reason why I wanted to buy this one. I actually tried to buy this in October last year, and it's quite rough around here. I personally would say it's beyond economical repair for what the value of the car is. So however, the guy would have thought it was worth, and he was looking to get more for it, so I ended up didn't get it that time, and 3 months later it's still for sale. So I gave him an odd call and we came to a deal and basically took what I offered them the first time, and it turned out he actually had something like 68 people contacting him about it, and I was the only person that actually shown up to buy it, so I guess I probably paid the right price for it. Now, what I'm going to try and do here, I don't know how I'm going to manage this here, but or I've never added on before. I'm going to try and put a picture of a Metro 6R4 in here somewhere so you can get a look at one. But I would imagine that most people watching this video probably don't know what a Metro 6R4 is. It's a wide-arched rally Metro that Rover built for Group B, and it had an engine in the back, sort of from here back, with a differential underneath it. It had the gearbox from there forward, and it was in between the seats, and then it had a diff at the front. And what that actually meant was that inside the seats were like so far apart that because of the gearbox, but the roll cage actually had to go up inside of this pillar, and it's actually a very small, very narrow diameter roll cage. I'm going to try and replicate that, but I think that's probably going to be one of the harder parts of this, so we'll have to see how we get on there. So the first thing anyone asks you whenever you say you're going to build a Metro 6R4 is what engine are you going to put in it, and I think the engine I have is a wee bit different, so we'll take a look at it and you can see what you think. Let me know. So here it is. This is a Porsche Boxster 2.7 litre engine. It's a 24 valve flat 6, and I think this one is the engine code is an M96.23, and it should have 228 brake horsepower, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I'll need to check. But the eagle-eyed among you would probably see that it's still connected to the car, so we'll talk about that now. So I decided back last year that I wanted to build another project car. I'd imagine, like a lot of people, when you build a couple of project cars, you sort of get addicted to it and you want another one. And for some reason I'd fancied building something with a load of fiberglass, and obviously probably the thing that I would have liked most would have been a Audi Quattro, and probably wouldn't have been happy until it was a short wheelbase Audi Quattro. But the price for those and the price for the parts for them is just astronomical. So I decided to build a Metro as it's a lot more achievable within a reasonable budget. So years ago I had a couple of MR2 Roadsters. These are the Mark III version. I bought them to buy and sell, and I actually really thought they were a really great handling car. I know a lot of people probably don't like them because of the looks. They're an odd looking car probably, but a really great handling thing, I thought. And from working on them I discovered that you could take all the body panels off them, and they basically were like you could turn them into a rolling chassis very easily. And so I decided what I was going to do is I was going to get a Metro. I was going to take the floor pan out of it, and I was going to use the MR2 Roadster as the chassis for it. So I was basically going to have a rebodied MR2 Roadster. Now it would only have 140 brake horsepower,
and I'd looked into various ways you get up the power to it. You can put a Toyota Celica engine into them, or you can put a turbo onto it, and that would have sort of given me the power you'd have needed. But obviously it wouldn't have been a V6 like the original Metro 6R4, and I think kind of the sound that Metro 6R4 has is a good bit of the appeal of it. So I watched a lot of videos on YouTube. In fact, my wife would go to bed, and since I'd been planning this project, I would watch every video that I could find that would be relevant on a MR2 Roadster, and they'd always referred to them as the poor man's Porsche Boxster. So I just kept watching the videos like that there, and I can't remember what happened one day. I was like, I thought I'd look up the wheelbase. The MR2 is actually 2 inches longer than a Metro 6R4, so it's 97 inches versus the 6R4 is 95. And I looked up the Porsche Boxster, and it turns out that it's actually got a 95-inch wheelbase, which is exactly the same as the Metro 6R4. So I started thinking and going, well, it's got a 6-cylinder, and it's roughly the right layout. It's mid-engine rather than rear-engined, but it handles well. It's plenty of grip. It's got plenty of power. You could probably lighten it a lot by taking a lot of things out of it. If you could up the power to 250 brake, you would have the same power as a Clubman spec Metro 6R4. So that's sort of where my mind was going. And I'd initially thought that I was going to buy a Porsche Boxster S, but there's a few reasons why I didn't go for that. One of them being cost. It is hard to find a Porsche Boxster S with reasonable mileage at a reasonable price, and would you cut one up? Probably not. So anyway, I ended up with this 2.7, but there's a few reasons for this. I think this is actually more suitable for what I need, but so yeah, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut down this Porsche Boxster till it's basically a rolling chassis, and I'm going to put the Metro body shell over the top of it and put the body kit on it, and it has a lot of the things that I don't mind doing, cutting and welding. I don't mind doing body work. Strangely, a lot of people hate it, but as you can see from the dust on me, I don't actually mind it. But I hate wiring, and I hate mechanical work. And if I can pull this off, I hopefully won't have to do very much of that. So it's mainly a re-body exercise with paintwork and a lot of finishing. There will be one main difference. Well, it's going to be completely different to a genuine Metro 6R4, but visually, whenever you look into the back of a Metro 6R4, it's you can see the engine. It's on display, and they're actually meant to be very loud and probably uncomfortable to drive because the engine's sort of right here, and you're basically sharing. There's a bit of perspex between you and the engine, and so it's not that ideal for driving every day. A lot of people building Metro 6R4s probably don't want to do a lot of mileage in them. They just want the most accurate thing as possible, whereas I would want to build something that I can use a lot. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the covering over the engine, and I'll probably trim it in some way. So when you look in the back, it's either going to be metal and with the engine under the cover, or else it's going to be carpeted. And I might actually, I think it might be quite warm inside, so I might even try and keep the air conditioning. But certain things are going to go and certain things are going to stay. I'm going to try and make it lightweight, but not at the expense of. I still want it to have some sort of drivability and comfort, you know. So just trying to find that fine line. But we'll have a look at it outside, and we'll talk over a few of the details on it.
this is one of the reasons why I decided on the Boxster. It has Brembo brakes as standard, and aluminium hubs, or hub carriers I should say. The brakes in this here are I think 299mm versus the Metro 6R4, which would have been 304. The Boxster S uses I think it's a 312mm disc, and it's sort of commonly thought that you can't fit a 16-inch wheel on a Boxster S. It might work, but I want to run a 16-inch wheel, maybe even possibly a 15-inch wheel, but I certainly don't want a 17. And so I decided to go for this, the non-S version. You can obviously buy the drilled discs and all for them. So that's one of the reasons. The back is much the same. These are 292mm versus the Metro's 304mm, and the S would have been 299. But on the S, the hub's actually different, and this toe link here actually sits out an awful lot further. I wasn't able to measure one, but it looked like it was going to be tight. I wasn't sure it would work, and so that's the brakes is one of the reasons. So the engine obviously sits in the middle of the car, and sort of ends, I don't know, somewhere right here, and the gearbox sits further back. Now, I actually didn't realise this in this car, but the output shaft of the gearbox is actually slightly behind the centre line of the wheels, and it's it's angled forward here. This means that the gearbox is actually slightly further back than I thought it would have been, but hopefully it'll be okay. I think it finishes somewhere around here. There's a chance that the design might be compromised in some way, and that you'll probably see the gearbox from the back of the car, which doesn't particularly bother me, as long as it's sort of not too offensive looking. The Boxster S, actually, it actually has a longer gearbox, so it's further between the engine and the output shaft, so there's more of an angle on it, and the box itself is actually longer again. So I think it would be too challenging. So it's probably just as well that I have this. And then this here is probably one of the main reasons. It's only where is it? 51,000 miles, and came full service history, and obviously the condition of the car is, I don't know what's happened to it, but it's pretty rough. It's obviously been lying about for a good while, but I've drove it. I've done about 30 miles in it, and it seems fine. It doesn't seem to be anything wrong with it, so we'll just continue on and hope that it's all okay. There's a lot of probably things about these engines that people are not too keen on. It doesn't seem to matter which year of one you buy, there'll be something that they're prone to failure for. Like the earlier ones would have had problems with the blocks, and this one supposedly is prone to what's called IMS failure, which is an intermediate shaft that runs it's run from the crank down an intermediate shaft and then out to two camshaft pulleys, and it's meant to fail them. So basically what this is going to need is some preventative maintenance before something like that happens. So it'll need one of those bearings put in it. It'll probably need timing chain tensioners and timing chain guides. And but listen, I knew that when I bought it. I knew that if you're going to buy a Porsche, you have to expect that it's going to need the maintenance and some sort of expense. It's not going to be just the same as something else. And probably, I think what a lot of people is probably going to ask is what way am I going to do this? Well, certainly, I'm going to build it to this spec anyway. It's a guide to basic IVA. Now, this here is actually, I bought this, and it's it's a really simple guide to the things that you need to be able to pass the ABA test. There's a load of detail in it that somebody's obviously done a lot of research. Now, this here, if you wanted one of these, hopefully this guy's not going to mind me talking about this, but I got it off a forum called Rods and Sods. There's a guy, I think his username's Capri with a K, so Kapri, and he's basically made this. And what you do is you send a donation to a hospice charity, and he'll send you out one of these, and it'll tell you everything you need to know, basically, I think. But it did take a while for it to turn up. You know, it didn't come the next day or anything, but it came, and you know, definitely, I think it was only £20. You know, so you couldn't do this research for 20 quid. So it's definitely well worth investing in if you're planning on doing something like this. And I almost forgot to include this information, but there's obviously some pretty major problems to overcome, and I had known about this before I bought either of the cars, but the cabin of the Boxster is, I think it's either 4.5, 5 inches wider from one end to the other than the Metro. I'm not particularly worried. I actually intend to, if I can, I'll probably try and keep the Boxster dash, because I would really just like to have all the switchgear and all still working, and I think I could shorten the dash handy enough. But the problem is that the pinch weld at the sill is, I think, slightly more than 2 inches further out here. So the pinch weld of the Metro would be here. Now I'm hoping that the sill of the Boxster can stay, and that the side skirt of the Metro 6R4 kit is going to cover it. But certainly I'm going to need to do something up in here. This is going to be out too far, so this is going to have to be cut back. This is like a higher grade of steel. I have done my research on this. There's very few times I would take into something and haven't done the research on it. But so this is going to need consideration for cutting and welding. I'm probably going to do some test samples of welds and things like that. And if I can't weld it to my satisfaction, I'm probably going to cut it out altogether, and I will remake it out of regular steel and brace it into the front. And obviously the new car is going to have a roll cage in it, and that's going to tie in, and it's going to tie to the front and tie to the back. So we'll be covered in all bases there. So but that's definitely, I would say this here is the major issue with this build. The rest of it, I think, we will get around okay. So that's an overview of the project. At the minute I'm waiting for the body kit to come. It'll probably be a few weeks yet. I've plenty to be getting on with. I need to cut the floor pan out of the Metro, and I need to trim this down, and it should be fit to offer the two of them together if I can get my hands on a couple of measurements. I just won't weld anything into place until I know it's perfect, and I'll need the body kit for that. Obviously this is my first video that I've made, and I've just realised that the lights in here are flickering, so I'll have to do something about that. But if there's any other suggestions you can make to make the videos better, by all means go ahead. If there's something you like about the project, you can tell me, and if there's something you don't like, tell me too. And if there's any suggestions that you think I can do to make it better, well, you can tell me those as well. One thing I'm struggling with is I would like to have a name for it that ties the Porsche and the Metro 6R4 together, and I haven't been able to come up with anything. Failing that, I'll probably just badge it as a Carrera, and I think I could probably get away with that. But if you have any suggestions that I could use, yeah, go ahead, tell me. And if you want to see more, you can subscribe, and hopefully there'll be another video soon.